Hello, and Kings of War week is upon us. This week, we're looking at all the different myriad of armies that are in Kings of War and exploring how the game plays. But one of the coolest things is all the stuff we're giving away. We have a massive grand prize of two 2,000 point armies, one undead and one you get to choose yourself. If you want to be in with a chance of winning, comment on this video here on YouTube or over on beastsofwar.com. If you do both, that gets you 2 entries. If you write a blog post and send the link to us at community@beastsofwar.com, that gets you another 10 entries. We're also giving away spot prizes of individual army deals, and the way we're going to work that is if you create a forum post or you participate in a forum post somewhere out on the interweb and we find out about it, we're going to be picking people at random and you're going to win an army. So, enjoy Kings of War week, because we most certainly will. Hey guys, so thanks for joining us. Right, so I'm joined by James Hewitt of Mantica, and in this series we're going to be looking at the background. The background to Kings of War, because for me the background of a game is so important, because I find that, the more that I know and understand about the background, and I don't need to go too deep into it, but the more kind of flavor I have for the game, the more it influences my decisions, and my armies start to make more sense. Every battle I play starts to feel more kind of purposeful, because I know the nuances. I know what my force stands for, what his force stands for, and the story becomes much more enriched in my head. And I just think it makes for a more purposeful hobby when you understand the background. The purpose of this video, or this series of videos, is we're going to go and have a look at the background. We're not going to go into massive amounts of detail, but just enough for you to get the flavor and for us to point you in the right direction for whatever it is you're interested in, so as you know where to go to get a bit more information on it. To date, there's been 3 books. It all kicked off with this one. This is the main Kings of War rulebook. So in there you'll find the background to Mantica. You'll find most of the main armies and things like the magical items, etc. in there. Shortly after that, we were followed by Kings and Legends. Now, this book introduced the ogres to the mix, but not only that, it introduced kind of heroes to each of the armies that were already in this book. And then most recently, we've just had the Basilean Legacy, which is introduced the Basileans, which you'll find about in this video series, and the forces of nature and the forces of the abyss. So, James, to kick off, I want to talk a little bit about the general backdrop to the whole thing. Okay. I want to talk about Mantica and what has led us to this point.
Yeah. So one of the big key things about Mantica currently, excuse me, is that people who live there often cough. There we go, clear my throat.
Do you want to take a drink of water?
You know what, I'm okay. But yeah, so Mantica is a world that's recovering and rebuilding after a massive war that happened, the God War, that happened 900 years ago. Before that, everything was happy and groovy. The elves, men and dwarves lived in beautiful harmony.
That's pretty much the races that
That's
were there.
Yeah, your 3 key races there at the time. The elves and dwarves kind of been around a bit longer. The Kingdom of Men was kind of gradually starting to build up and get some power. And they were all, overseen by the Celestials, a race of kind of godlike beings who lived up in the mountains, kind of like in classical mythology. And they would come down and, occasionally interfere in fun little ways, and some of them were kind of good, some of them were kind of evil, but they all balanced out in a kind of groovy way. It all went wrong when an elf called Calisaur decided that he really quite fancied a human princess.
Right.
Now, in the history before this, there were many stories of humans and elves falling in love, and because humans die at quite a young age compared to elves, it never went well. And so, of course, she was like, well, I'm not too keen on this. You're lovely, you're a brilliant warrior, you're a scholar, you're a wizard, you're all these different things, but I'm not too down with that. So he was heartbroken, and he went off into the wilds to seek an answer. And he came across one of the Celestials.
Yeah.
As, you know, as this often happened in these kind of stories, the Celestial said to him, well, I've got an answer for you. We can create a magical mirror that will give her a vision.
These Celestials, these are kind of like, they're the gods.
Yeah, exactly. There's some kind of living gods of the Mantic world at the time.
Up in the kind of the mountain, coming down.
And one of them was down, you know, in a forest glade somewhere, and said, I can sort this out for you, don't you worry. You know, one look in this magical mirror we'll create, and she'll be yours forever. Which is a little bit creepy, I won't lie.
Well, it is, but you know, that's kind of how it goes.
Absolutely,
world,
yeah.
Isn't it?
So he went off on a quest to find all these pieces, and you know, he had to defeat monsters and evil wizards and things to get to the components of this mirror.
Yeah.
Put it together, and they poured the power of the Celestials into it. But the Celestial said to him, "There's one thing you must do. You must show the mirror, and she'll see a vision. But the moment you see a little golden bird in the trees starting to sing a song, you've got to tell her to stop looking at the mirror, because at that point, if it goes on much longer, she won't be down with the idea anymore."
Yeah.
Okay, so long story short, she looked in the mirror, she fell in love with him, saw like their future together and whatever else. But
so great babies, ruling the kingdom,
exactly, all that sort of stuff. And then the golden bird started singing, but she was too intrigued, and he was kind of intrigued as well to see what was next.
Yeah.
And of course, it was her dying and rotting away gradually in a marble tomb, and she was driven completely mad by this. And he raged out and smashed the mirror.
Okay.
Now, as we know...
Well, at the very least, that's 7 years bad luck.
Absolutely, yeah. Multiply that out a little bit. Try 900 years.
Okay.
So what happened, of course, there was all this power in the mirror. It's an amazing magical artifact. Turns out that this Celestial wasn't entirely on the level with this.
Yeah.
And maybe he knew this was going to happen. So when the mirror was smashed, it caused this huge rent in reality, because it had so much power inside it.
Yeah.
That the Celestials were ravaged by magical forces, which is never cool.
No.
I never enjoy that, personally.
I would imagine.
And so the Celestials were generally destroyed. The ones that were left were split into two different aspects.
Yes.
So you had like the good side of them and the evil side. So they became the shining ones and the wicked ones.
The shining and the wicked.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, massive...
that's not going to go well when you have all the shining on one side and all the wicked on the other. That's going to go bang.
So a huge war, the God War, started.
Yeah.
Which is as awesome as you might imagine. Huge weapons of destruction. The evil guys created orcs and their ilk as minions to send out as foot soldiers. And it was all going horribly wrong until one of the humans from Primovantor, which was the big human capital at that time, rose up as a hero and led an alliance of men, elves, dwarves, shining ones, and destroyed the evil forces and banished the wicked ones to the abyss, which was a large kind of crack in the ground, big volcanic rent in the earth itself. And so things were kind of all right for a little while. Then there was, it turned out one of the wicked ones, the goddess Winter, her name was, hadn't been banished, so she created a massive magical ice age, which lasted for quite some time. And the world was kind of almost wiped clean. You know, there was very little left at the end of it. Yeah. So these brilliant magical kingdoms that were doing so well suddenly had to start from scratch.
All gone. Yeah.
So that brings us to the current day. Now, where we are, we're kind of 900 years from the point at which the wicked ones are banished to the abyss. But evil is starting to walk the lands once more. So what's interesting is we've got a world where the apocalypse has happened, in a way. Yeah. It's, you know, you're kind of post-Mad Max. You're post-Mad Max. The apocalypse has happened.
This is post-apocalypse.
Absolutely. We're post-modern, post-apocalypse. It's great. And so the kingdoms are kind of starting to rebuild. Yeah. The humans have kind of fragmented, but they're starting to gain power again. The elves, not so much, but we'll come to them in a minute. But generally, the world's in this kind of period of rebirth when evil starts appearing. So you've got the abyss is starting to wake up. Morgoth is an evil necromancer who is kind of growing an undead legion in the south. There's all these little things starting to happen, and we're kind of on a balance point now. It could go one way or the other, you know. And I think it's a really exciting place for a world, because the Celestials, the big gods, have gone. You've got the Shining Ones, who are pretty gaudy, you know, but
they're not the gods.
Exactly. So a hero is not just a pawn. It's not just a playing piece in the realm of the gods. What's happening is all the races and the kingdoms have got the chance to forge their own destiny, you know, and so a human hero could be the biggest thing ever, could change the course of the entire world.
Yeah.
Even though he's just some, mortal.
So it's a story of a world that's primed for change. It's primed for the story to blossom.
Yeah, it's like the board has been cleared, and there
Yeah.
are now new pieces being laid out. So where it goes from here is entirely up to the gamer, really.
Yeah. So Guy Haley is behind a lot of the background and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
Guy, a lot of people might know him from, he's currently a big author with the Black Library. He's one of the big up-and-coming guys. He used to be the editor of White Dwarf magazine, SFX magazine, he used to edit as well, which was really cool. It's one of my favourite magazines, and he edited the Mantic Journal, which was our little publication we did for a little while.
Yeah.
And in that, we released a lot of background. So Guy had a hand in the early background of the Kings of War universe.
Yeah.
When we came to doing the hardback rulebook, he was like the obvious choice.
Yes.
So we went to Guy, and he came up with this world. It works with fantasy archetypes without turning them into cliches.
Yeah. So the archetypes are there.
An elf is still an elf.
But the cliches, or they try to remove the cliches.
Exactly. If we made elves that shoot lasers out of their face and can climb walls, then they wouldn't be elves. They'd be something different.
Yes. Yeah.
I want some of those. They sound really cool.
They do sound cool, yeah, but they're
Maybe
not there.
Kings of War 2, who knows? But yeah, so they're still, an elf is still recognisably an elf. He's haughty, he's arrogant, he thinks he's better than everyone, whatever. But hopefully we've done something a little bit different to what other fantasy things have done. And Guy has kind of made this whole world there's kind of hope there.
Yeah.
And, as I say, anyone can be a hero in this world. So hopefully there's this, it's basically a big playground.
Yeah.
You can jump in there, and because it's quite a new thing, I mean, the rulebook's only been out for a year, there is so much scope for people to go in and create swathes of land around their campaigns or their armies and have some fun,
Great. Well, and like I said, in this video series, that's a little bit of the backdrop. In this video series, we're going to take a look at each of the factions and talk a little bit about them and basically try and find out more about what makes them tick. If you're interested in the world of Mantica, it's worth picking up the main rulebook because all of that information is covered in great detail along with everything else in the front of that book. Other than that, stay tuned to the rest of the series, guys, and we hope you enjoy this. And if you have any questions about Mantica, the background or fluff, be sure to post them in the comments below.